Let's now catch up with Daily Telegraph columnist and blogger Tim Blair and Mark Nicholson from Stepmake Studios. Thanks for both of you for catching up again, guys. I want to get your thoughts on the cost of living issue, because Anthony Albanese is now telling us again that in the next budget we can expect more money handed out to help with our cost of living. I mean, it's not really the way it's supposed to work, right? You're supposed to actually cut power prices, cut inflation, make sure interest rates go down. That's the way to tackle the cost of living, not just shovel more money out to help people stay on top of the bills, Tim.
Absolutely. This is, by the way, this is why Argentina became such a huge economic basket case. It was because they did what was fair. People like businesses and communities where would come to the government and plead, you've got to help us out here, you've got to subsidise. And they would subsidise in different ways, all sort of different categories, to the point where I think, electricity bills in Argentina are like 5% of what they are in Europe, because everyone gets subsidised. And it means you all go broke. It's a ruinous idea. It distorts market values, and it's the way of disaster. We've seen it happen. They're actually repeating one of the great economic disasters of the last century.
Yeah, it's just terrible. And, Mark, the other thing about it, of course, it immediately creates a divide, because there'll be some people who get the government handouts and some who don't, and the ones who don't are still hit by cost of living pressures.
Yeah, that's right. And if you needed any more evidence that this very well may be an election year, you certainly got it there, because this is all just to cover up that $275 power bill promise that he made and didn't fulfil. And you're right. You're right. He stood up there today and was talking about how this is going to be for small businesses and families, because that obviously sounds good. As a small business owner and a bloke with a family, I can tell you right now, it's probably not going to help me. The Labor Party never does. And really what this is just a $3 billion injection that's going to take the scenic route through us to the big energy cartels, and it's going to get, subsidised and then picked up again by the taxpayer. It's a beautiful little system, and all it is just to cover up the lie. And he's sitting there going, yes, now Sky won't be able to ask me questions about that $275 power bill question. That's all it is. He thinks he's being so sneaky.
I think you're absolutely wrong, Mark. I think the Labor Party does a lot for you. They give you most of your best material. But here is the Prime Minister. Here's what he was saying today.
Helping Australian families and helping small family businesses with their energy bills was a key priority in last year's budget. It helped people under pressure, but it did something else as well. It helped to fight inflation. And as we put together next month's budget, small businesses and families will again be front and centre in our thinking.
Yeah, he's going to throw more cash around. You don't fight inflation by throwing more cash around. Why didn't he just do what he promised to do, which was this?
Reducing power prices by $275.
By 2025, $275 a year.
$275 a year.
We'll get power prices down by $275 a year.
Yeah, some promised that one. Now, just after we spoke to you guys last week, Ben Fordham in 2GB broke this story about the climate hypocrisy of Anthony Albanese and Chris Bowen. I've got to show that. Now, the two jets, 20 minutes apart, both going from Canberra to Scone in the Hunter Valley. I mean, Mark, we see so many examples of climate hypocrisy, virtue signalling hypocrisy, but this one's a standout.
It's almost ridiculous. Bowen threw the RAF under the bus as well in another classic Labor move, which is to throw someone else under the bus. But a lot of people much wiser than me have got many takes on this. Yes, it's hypocritical and it's a waste of taxpayer money. But it sort of tells me two things about Chris Bowen, is that not even Anthony Albanese will spend an hour with him on a flight. And let him on board. He's that bad bloke. He must stink. And two, the general public just don't think he's cool enough to be flying private. Flying private is for rock stars. It's for Taylor Swift and the big names. It's not for people like Chris Bowen. We'll almost happily do it, but it's a waste of that sort of luxurious lifestyle on Chris Bowen, the mug. It doesn't make sense. That's what makes us really angry.
It's not a bad theory, Tim, that they needed the second jet so that Albo didn't have to listen to Bowen.
Yeah, well, my theory of Monday's column about Albo being the nice guy everyone likes, that's sort of blown out the window, isn't it? But it is fascinating to me that one of the reasons that Bowen gave for having to use two jets was they had too many staffers, too many advisors, too many people from their offices to fit in one jet. Now, if you've got so many advisors that you need two jets to carry them just up the road, really, to make this announcement. If you've got all those high-powered, brilliantly well-paid genius staffers, and not one of them suggested at any time, guys, flying two jets to a climate announcement might be a really dumb idea. Not one of them. They should all be fired, and then they can fit in a Tarago.
Yeah. I think they have quantity in advisors and not quality. Hey, Tim, I want to share something that you picked up today. This is a beautiful get on social media. Jonathan Green, the former ABC opinionista, he was tweeting about showing a picture of a protester in Melbourne. He says a dude has wandered out and has halted the tram. 2 cops have had a chat and walked away. 100 or so of us are stuck inside. The bloke's a Palestine protester. And someone else on Twitter tweets back and says to Green that it's a minor inconvenience compared to a genocide. Time we all woke up. And Green says causing one may well have no material effect on ending the other. But yet, so suddenly Green doesn't like the protesters because they inconvenience him on the tram.
Yes, it's always the way with our lefty friends, isn't it? In theory, things like Extinction Rebellion protests and Just Stop Oil protests that block streets, that's all fine until you're the one being blocked. Then it's personal. And, Green's got a bit of background with this. He used to be the editor of Me Engine. Its real title, I think, is Brisbane. But when he edited that magazine, he would publish things saying, Extinction Rebellion's great. These protests, they're a valid form of democratic activity. And then, of course, your tram gets blocked by a dickhead with a flag.
And suddenly Jonathan Green realises that actually the protester might not change the world as well. Hey, Mark, we haven't checked in on your Please Explain cartoons for a while. I wanted to show everyone a little bit of this week's, the one that was out last Thursday. It's a ripper because Pauline Hanson becomes Prime Minister. All our problems are solved, and it even keeps Paul Murray happy. Have a look.
Ever since you boys went missing, Australia's really been thriving.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, it's been the best 3 weeks ever. Cost of living crisis is over. Consumer confidence is at an all-time high. We've cleaned up the Indigenous industry, so the money's actually being spent on those that need it, not just lining the pockets of the handful of elites. Even Sky News is happy.
You know what? Everything's great. So, good night and sleep well, Australia. What? That's incredible.
Oh, yeah, Prime Minister Hanson's really pulled it all together.
Oh, I love it,
Beautiful.
Mark. Paul Murray's shortest ever editorial.
Yeah, it was the shortest show Paul's ever done. It didn't even, no teleprompter, just straight from the heart. I love it. It was, it's always good. I'm going to try and collect the set of all the folks here at Sky. I ran into Steve Price in the hallway the other day. I'm going to try and get him in there. He scares the hell out of me, but we'll get him in.
Get him all in.
Rita in. We'll try and get the whole lot.
Yeah. Get the whole lot. We love it. Great stuff, mate. We look for the next one out in the next couple of days.